Chapter 11. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The guard commander's face was expressionless and his voice was indifferent. His Royal Highness Marston ordered me to come and investigate. Also, old fellow, if you dare to curse again, I will chop your old and ugly head from top to bottom with my sword. In half. Earl Marston personally confessed that the Brooke clan is the king of Lahmia. When we go out, we go crazy. Albert's eyes twitched and he was furious. The old cheeks were full of anger. As the steward of Castle Castain, he represents the face of Count Castain when the Earl is away. Now, he was insulted to his face by a mere baron and a small head of the bodyguard. Old butler Albert wanted to fight to the end, but his reason told him not to do so. He regained his composure and then realized what the leader of the bodyguard said. Your bodyguard is missing. What does it have to do with us at Castain Castle? A robber came to your house and robbed something, and his whereabouts are unknown. You should look for him, not me. Old butler Albert stared at him. The commander of the personal guards glanced at him coldly and said calmly, Don't pretend to be confused with me. Most of my 2 personal guards have been killed. I know that Fort Castain also sent people out to collect taxes yesterday. I dare it must have been you. As he spoke, he took a step forward and looked condescendingly. Tell me, who was the person in charge of taxation in the town of Bonn yesterday? Hand him over, because he is the murderer of my 2 personal guards. The town of Bonn. Albert was stunned, and in an instant, a flash of lightning flashed in his mind. Fang Qingyan is the person in charge of taxation in the town of Bonn. He was the only one who completed the task yesterday. Marston's personal guards clearly sent people to the small town of Bonn to rob, but when asked yesterday, Fang Qingyan said that they had not encountered. Obviously, Fang Qingyan didn't tell the truth. The reason why he was able to collect all the taxes was because he took back the blood food that was taken away by Marston's personal guards. Good guy. Albert's eyes suddenly lit up, and he called out in his heart, What a guy. Fang Qingyan hid his strength, but that was not important. What was really important was that he killed Earl Marston's personal guards. This made old housekeeper Albert suddenly feel happy. You deserve to be beaten to death for letting you take things by force. P.S. Many readers are not used to the Western fantasy style, so I used a lot of Eastern style language in the writing to make it easier to bring in. I hope everyone can understand. Chapter 14. Ha 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 ha. I didn't expect that you fanatics would end up like this. You are used to bullying cowards who dare not resist, so you think that all vampires are spineless weaklings. Old butler Albert laughed heartily and said sarcastically, Bullying the weak and using power to suppress others, you so-called royal nobles can only do this. In Lahmia City, even the nobles have to look at the royal family's face. Everyone succumbed to the arrogance and violence of the 7 royal families, so Fang Qingyan is good. Old man, you are asking for your own death. The commander of the personal guard suddenly changed his color, his eyes revealing murderous intent. However, Albert was unmoved. He was not afraid to look at him happily, and his old voice was full of momentum. When I was 4 years old, I first stepped into this castle. When I was 20 years old, I became steward of Steinberg. I have witnessed the growth of many people and experienced the rise and fall of times. I am 209 years old this year. What exactly do you want to say? The guard commander frowned. Albert grinned, showing 2 old fangs, and glanced at him with contempt. Then his expression became solemn, and his voice suddenly became extremely hard. I said, I have seen more storms and waves than you have drank blood. A mere baron, a lackey of the royal family, dares to bark in front of me. Death is only the reincarnation of life and returns to the arms of the ancestors. Do you think everyone is greedy for life and afraid of death? The old butler roared angrily, Your Majesty, the Earl is not here, so I will guard this castle. If you want to touch the people I protect, you must step over my corpse first. Albert roared angrily, and a force of energy and blood surged out of his body. He turned out to be a baron vampire too. The fangs are sharp and the claws are powerful. Even though I am old and dying, I can still fight. He rushed forward, took the lead in launching an attack, and fought with the commander of the personal guards. Half a minute later. Laugh, the sword light fell, and Albert's old head flew up, along with the gushing blood, dyeing the sky a desolate red. He is old after all. Bah! The guard commander spat a mouthful of phlegm into the ground, shook the blood dripping from his sword, pointed the sword forward, and said ferociously, "Kill me, kill all the people in the castle, leave no one behind. Live. Since the old guy is unwilling to reveal who the murderer is, then just kill them all, which can also achieve the goal. After all, they are here to kill people, and their weapons are destined to be stained with blood. Killing one is killing them all is killing. His Highness Marston is not afraid of offending Count Castain to death. What does he have to be afraid of?" With an order, dozens of personal guards all drew their swords and swarmed in. Castain went on an expedition and took away all the guards, leaving only a few guards to guard the castle, which was naturally vulnerable. For a time, there was a bloody storm. "Ah! Don't kill me, please let me go. I say. The person in charge of the taxation of the town of Bonn is Edward. It's his fault. Don't kill me. You devils." In the Count's bedroom, bang, there was a loud noise and the coffin lid flew high into the air, a dazzling crimson bloomed, and a slender man stepped out of the light. With a gentle breath, there was thunder and blood mist going in and out of the 7 orifices. Feeling the destructive and terrifying power of this body, Fang Qingyan knew that he had succeeded in breaking through. A new earl is born in Lahmia. He also awakened a 4th superpower, mind reading. After adapting to the new realm of life, Fang Qingyan moved his hands. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly, and he noticed something unusual. After suddenly releasing his mental power, he saw the massacre scene taking place outside. Gone. Rumble. The guards who were killing people suddenly heard a loud noise. Immediately afterwards, a large hole was opened in the building at the top of the castle, and a domineering and powerful figure flew into the sky, wrapped in a raging murderous aura. The speed is really too fast. Almost instantly. Die! The explosive roar burst the eardrums. Fang Qingyan slapped it with a palm, and the count level pressure was as terrifying as a mountain, and the vast power of blood rushed in. Boom! More than a dozen bodyguards were exploded on the spot. Their limbs and arms were flying all over the place. Corpses were scattered all over the place, and their broken internal organs were flying everywhere. The scene was extremely bloody. "Who are you?" The commander of the personal guards was shocked. "There are actually high-level vampires in Castain Castle." This terrifying aura and spiritual pressure nearly suffocated him. Boom! Fang Qingyan punched out from the air, and the commander of the personal guards felt his eyes blurred before losing consciousness. He was beaten into a sticky pulp. The dignified baron was as weak as an ant under Fang Qingyan. Boom! Taking action again, the violent power of blood crushed the bodies of all the remaining guards into dregs, and blood mist steamed up. With 3 punches and 2 kicks, all the enemies were killed. The scene can be called a hell, extremely bloody. Nuoda's garden was dyed into a bloody world. Every blade of grass was stained with blood, every bush was covered with stumps and severed limbs, and brains were mixed. Blood splattered all over the smooth marble floor. Snort! Fang Qingyan snorted coldly. Looking around, I found that only a few servants of Nuoda Castle survived. The rest were massacred. He felt even more angry. His body flashed in front of a survivor, and his eyes were shrouded in a faint mysterious purple light. Through mind reading, I quickly learned the cause and effect of the incident. Fang Qingyan's eyes flashed fiercely. It turned out that he was here to find himself. But there's no need to destroy the family, right? Marston bro, you're screwed. Fang Qingyan was full of evil spirits and was about to leave when his ears suddenly twitched. Oh my God! How can Edward be so strong? He actually hit it so deeply. I always thought he was a pariah like me. I never thought we were different. He turned around and glared at several people, making them tremble in fear. These words were naturally not spoken by them, but Fang Qingyan, who has the superpower of mind reading, heard their voices. Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In this way, his identity was exposed. Fang Qingyan did not want to leave his peaceful and tranquil life. Swish! He grabbed several servants from a distance, and then his eyes glowed purple, and an invisible and mysterious spiritual power enveloped them. the eyes of several people immediately became dull and blank. Fang Qingyan modified their memories. When they woke up, they would only remember that a mysterious man fell from the sky and killed all the enemies, but they would not know that it was Fang Qingyan. After leaving a few people behind, Fang Qingyan's body floated in the air, and then flew away at a very fast speed. Although the problem was temporarily solved, it was a temporary solution. The personal guards of Earl Marston were destroyed, and they would be furious after receiving the news and come to the door again. In the end, it was endless trouble, so Fang Qingyan planned to go straight to Huanglong and kill this guy once and for all. The best way to solve trouble is to solve the troublemaker. This is not reckless of him. On the contrary, Marquis Brooke went to Draenor and took most of the family's elites with him. This was the best time to deal with Marston, and he was not going to the Brooke clan headquarters, but to the Count Marston castle. System, I want to sign in today. While flying, Fang Qingyan called out the system. Ding! Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 7-star magic weapon, Death Scythe. PS. The 4th update, please give evaluation votes, flowers, monthly tickets, and support. Chapter 15. 7-star magic weapon, Death Scythe. Fang Qingyan was stunned, then the space in front of him trembled, and a deep and mysterious breath like the abyss appeared. There was a huge sickle-shaped weapon in front of him. Looking at its style, it was very similar to the sickle used by the god of death to harvest souls in the movies and animations I had seen in my previous life. The handle of the death scythe is more than 2 meters long. It is pitch black, dark and dull, with a faint blood-red mysterious rune outline. The sickle is as big as a guillotine, with a graceful bend, the sharp edge is exposed, and the cold light is fierce. This is the first time I sign in to get a magic weapon. Whatever you want, you get it. Fang Qingyan's eyes surged with a strange color, and then he reached out and grasped the handle of the death scythe without thinking. It was heavy in the hand and cold in texture, but Fang Qingyan felt that it seemed to have life. He could clearly feel the rhythm of this murderous weapon. Like a killer who could breathe, he stretched out his thumb and gently wiped it on the blade. The skin was immediately cut open, and blood oozed out. Good weapon. Fang Qingyan couldn't help but praise it, and the wound on his thumb healed automatically. It can easily cut the flesh of the Earl-level vampires, which is shocking. His current physical strength is comparable to diamond, so you can imagine how sharp the death scythe is. Fang Qingyan once read a book in the study of Castain Castle. It talks about the knowledge of magic weapons. The most suitable weapon for blood race in the world is the magic weapon. The casting of magic weapons uses the body parts of blood race as raw materials, such as fangs, claws, bones, flesh, hair. The grades of magic weapons are divided into 9 levels. From the lowest level of 1-star magic weapons to the top 9-star magic weapons, the body materials of traditional blood race can only cast magic weapons below 3 stars, and it is rumored that the top 9-star magic weapons are forged by princes. The raw materials of the death scythe that Fang Qingyan got are at least marquee. Not only has he broken through the Earl realm, but he also has such a sharp weapon. Fang Qingyan narrowed his eyes and showed a bloodthirsty grin. Marston, if you can live to see tomorrow's sun, I will write my name upside down. Swoosh, the mental power is fully urged. The flying speed instantly broke the sound barrier. At an extremely fast speed, it broke through the air. 2/4 of an hour later, the huge and luxurious Earl Marston castle, which was like a palace, came into view. Stop! A shocking roar sounded. A powerful man with a terrifying aura jumped out of the castle, raised his head and shouted at Fang Qingyan, "This is the residence of His Highness Marston. If you trespass without permission, you will be punished by death." A huge sickle shadow flashed by, making a clean-cutting sound. Then the huge head flew up, and the headless corpse fell to the ground with blood. In response to him, it was Fang Qingyan's knife. A mere viscount was not a match for him. Boom! A brutal palm blasted open the huge iron door of the castle. Fang Qingyan dragged the sickle of death and rushed into it with a step. With a chi-chi sound, more than a dozen guards were cut in half in an instant, and he began to kill people everywhere. Castain Castle was almost wiped out. Fang Qingyan planned to let Marston experience the pain of being wiped out. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Someone is invading. Go and inform His Highness Marston. It's over, the deputy commander was hacked to death, this man is too powerful, let's run. Marston Castle was in chaos, the guards fled in all directions, however, in front of a murderous earl, running away is obviously a luxury. Shishikachichikachichikachichi. Fang Qingyan was like a god of death. He kept rushing forward, waving the sickle of death with both hands, killing 10 people in one step, domineering and extremely strong. The knife fell, killing indiscriminately. 100 steps later, as far as the eye could see, no one could stand behind Fang Qingyan, corpses piled up like a mountain, blood flowed like a river, like hell. He did not look back, he pushed open the door of the inner castle expressionlessly, stepped on the white velvet floor, held the sickle handle in his right hand, and dragged the sickle on the ground, a bloody footprint with every step. At the end of the hall, a noble in gorgeous clothes sat on a high place, unmoved by honor or disgrace, with a handsome face and an elegant sitting posture, feeling that he was locked in Fang Qingyan's eyes. Marston grinned, revealing 2 fierce fangs. He looked down on me with an arrogant tone. There are many earls in Lahmia, and everyone knows me, but few can catch my eye. You are one of them, because you are very brave. Although all the guards in the castle were killed, but Marston did not show any panic, anger, violence or other emotions. As a noble, you must have this kind of arrogance of only I am noble, and everything else is lowly. When you are in danger, you should not panic, and when the enemy comes to you, you should talk and laugh for a while, and then kill him with the most powerful means, which makes you look very noble. Swish, with a horizontal slash, the throne was split into 2. Fang Qingyan, who was still 100 meters away, came to him at some point. The speed has exceeded the dynamic speed limit that the eyes can capture, but this slash was in the air, and the sickle of death did not give you the refreshing feeling of the sharp blade cutting through human tissue. You don't have the grace of a noble at all, you are very barbaric and rude. The voice came from behind. Lord Marston stood with his hands behind his back, about 10 meters away from Fang Qingyan. He looked gloomy and angry because Fang Qingyan attacked him before he could finish his words. You are so pretentious. Fang Qingyan looked calm. I really want to know, will you royal nobles kneel down and beg for mercy? P.S. The new book has been published for more than 30,000 words so far, and the results are a bit miserable. Everyone knows that Feilu will be put on the shelves with 110,000 or 20,000 words, but the author can no longer imagine the situation on the day of the release. If you like this book, please support Xiaopuji. I don't know why this book is a bit of a flop right from the start. Maybe it's because the subject matter is not good, or I don't write it well. Anyway, please support. Chapter 16. Will the royal nobles kneel down and beg for mercy? Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing this, Earl Marston's face suddenly darkened, and there was a bloodthirsty and violent aura about him. It seemed that this statement irritated him. The 7 major clans are the supreme existence of the Blood Clan. How can you desecrate the glory given by the ancestor? Disrespect the royal family, you deserve to die. Marston's fangs grew 2 inches in size, his pupils suddenly turned blood red, and the terrifying power of blood burst out from his body. The overwhelming momentum pressed against Fang Qingyan, as if he wanted to pierce the dome. The space trembled, and a ferocious magic weapon appeared in his hand, which was a blood-red spear. Murderous intent enveloped him. Fang Qingyan remained motionless. Kill! Loud shouts rang in my ears. The figures of the 2 earls disappeared instantly, and then there was the harsh sound of weapons clashing. Fang Qingyan held the death sickle and started fighting with Marston in this spacious hall. Boom! 2 figures flashed in the space, moving at extreme speeds, pulling out afterimages that collided with each other every time they appeared. Blood energy raged in all directions, and strong winds swept around. A fierce fight. Laugh! A sound different from the previous one. Earl Castain retreated into the distance. His face was gloomy, and he looked down. A terrifying wound more than 1 meter long started from the neck, passed through the torso, and spread to the thigh. The wound was extremely deep, and you could see the white bones and squirming internal organs inside. Shocking, like a huge ugly centipede, the death scythe almost split his whole body in half. Gurgling, the blood flowed profusely, but in a blink of an eye, Marston's wounds healed without leaving any scars. The vampire's powerful recovery ability. The body was cut open and there were only minor injuries. But Marston was furious as never before. Damn it, you actually know my royal family's physical combat skills. Who are you? His eyes were like an evil ghost, staring at Fang Qingyan and roaring angrily. He was at a disadvantage in the fight, and he could no longer maintain the demeanor of a royal noble. You're out of your mind. Fang Qingyan's right hand shook, and the blood on the death sickle was shaken off. His expression was calm. I am the one who came to kill you. Presumptuous. Marston was furious. Don't be too proud of yourself. I didn't show my true strength just now. No matter who you are dead today. I will kill you and eat you. Amidst the roar, a strange wave of mental power was released from his body. Seeing this, Fang Qingyan couldn't help but squint his eyes. Is he finally going to use his superpower? In close combat and physical competition, Earl Marston was actually suppressed. He found that he could not defeat Fang Qingyan, who was holding a 7-star magic weapon, and he became angry from embarrassment. Jiji, dead storm. Marston smiled evilly, spreading the 5 fingers of his left hand and lifting it upward. In an instant, there was a miserable wind, mist, ghosts crying, wolves howling, and bursts of demonic sounds. Dark caves opened around him, and evil spirits roared out of them. The dense army of evil spirits rushed towards Fang Qingyan. The auras of these evil spirits are very powerful. Their faces are ferocious and incorporeal. Like vampires, they have fangs and claws, and blood-red eyes. Like demons that choose people to eat, Marston actually has the superpower to summon an army of undead. This is very rare among vampires. As the heir of Marquis Brooke, he has been gifted with mental power since he was a child. In the middle of the battle, the army of death is suddenly summoned, and the one-on-one fight turns into a group fight. It's very rogue. No one can withstand my undead army. Even if you are the peak count, you will not be able to last for a few minutes. You will be torn to pieces by the evil spirits. Marston laughed wildly. This was his trump card. Showing his trump card meant that victory was already his. Countless evil spirits rushed towards Fang Qingyan crazily. He seemed stunned and motionless. In the blink of an eye, the army of evil spirits submerged him, like a flood swallowing up a village. Rumble. The castle trembled and shook violently, then it collapsed with a crash. There were so many evil spirits, thousands of them, that they crushed the main hall and turned the luxurious castle building into a pile of ruins, but Marston didn't feel any heartache at all. Although his luxurious castle became Fang Qingyan's tomb after his death, but he had plenty of money. The overwhelming undead were squeezing one another, one on top of another, with Fang Qingyan in the center. His life and death were unknown, and there was no movement at all. She should be dead, right? Marston muttered. There were big beads of sweat on his forehead. Although the superpower of Necromantic Storm is extremely terrifying and one person can form an army, it consumes too much mental power. When he becomes a marquis, he can use it unlimitedly and summon millions of evil lions with just a wave of his hand. Zila. Suddenly, Marston heard a strange noise, and I also smelled an extremely unpleasant burnt smell. It's like using a torch to plunge into an ant's nest and burning it, or like a hot oil pan frying stinky tofu. He raised his eyes and was stunned. A little red light lit up from the center of the evil spirit army, and then expanded rapidly, like a dazzling sun, wherever the light passed. All the evil spirits screamed and disappeared into ashes. Boom! A breath of extreme yang and strength rose into the sky. It swept across the evil spirit army in an instant, and thousands of evil spirits turned into nothingness. A figure emitting a dazzling red-gold light slowly walked out, with golden flames like snakes wrapped around his body, like a sun god. See, what a ghost! Marston felt the scorching sun fire on his face. He immediately doubted his life. Can a vampire with extremely lean and extremely soft attributes transform into an extremely young and extremely strong form? Are you really a vampire? Chapter 17. Fang Qingyan has now transformed into an extremely young form. The sunwalking vampire transformation secret technique allows him to have both yin and yang attributes at the same time, and switch between the two at will, transforming his qi and blood into extreme yin or extreme yang, completely at his will. He is the first vampire in the world who is not afraid of the sun. Other vampires can only enjoy the nourishment of moonlight, and will be destroyed by the sun. but Fang Qingyan can even absorb the energy of the sun, not to mention Earl Marston. Even if his father the Marquis came, he would doubt his life. How did you do it? Earl Marston's vocal cords began to tremble. The scene in front of him really overturned his three views. He moved his body back and roared, "Tell me, as a blood clan, why do you have the favor of the sun?" No vampire is unfamiliar, disgusted, or afraid of the breath of the sun. However, a strange flower appeared in front of him. Earl Marston could clearly feel the extremely young and strong sun essence fire energy coming from Fang Qingyan. He felt unprecedented fear. Fang Qingyan's footsteps sounded one after another, and his eyes were cold. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean that others can't do it. He has put away the sickle of death. The power of the extreme young is also extremely lethal to magic weapons. The magic weapon itself is forged with the body materials of the blood clan and will melt in the sun. However, Marston was almost vomiting blood when he heard his words. What does just because you can't do it doesn't mean others can't do it mean? Is this a question of what I can't do? You are the only one who did it in the entire Nikala blood clan. You are an outlier. Okay, I know you have no other means and trump cards. Fang Qingyan raised his chin slightly, his handsome face and neck showed a beautiful arc, and his voice was flat. If there is no last words, I will send you to see the Ancestor Lilith. Damn it! Marston looked ferocious, and wanted to summon the army of the undead again and fight to the death, but his trembling legs told him that he couldn't do this. Whoosh! He turned around directly, flew up, and broke through the air. Flying is a superpower very common among blood clans. He actually escaped. Fang Qingyan sneered, and he was still a royal aristocrat, but he was just a coward. His body disappeared instantly, and his speed broke through the sound barrier. Marston wanted to escape back to the Brooke clan headquarters, where there was no strong person to protect him. It's over. I just used up too much mental energy to use my superpowers. Earl Marston was pale and panicked, because Fang Qingyan was much faster than him. 3 minutes later, a scream resounded through the sky. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Orc army marched straight into the territory of the vampire clan, destroyed the city and captured 35 cities in one night. The coffin board of the vampire ancestor was not pressed down. Duke Vlad, who had been in seclusion for 1,400 years, climbed out of the coffin and turned the tide. Only then did the Orc army stop their attack. However, the Orc army in Azeroth still has not retreated, and is still preparing for the next round of attack. To put it simply, the vampires have never fought ferocious orcs. The kingdom of Nikala was defeated. For a time, gloomy clouds filled the sky over the city of Lahmia, and even the moonlight seemed to dim a lot. A few more days later, Count Castain has returned from the front. The Earl was pushed back in a wheelchair. Chapter 19. Crunch. The big iron door opens. A group of armored guards walked in. Almost everyone was injured, and many missing arms and legs were lying on stretchers. Their morale was low. At the front of the team, Count Castain was sitting in a wheelchair, being pushed by his guards. Fang Qingyan couldn't believe that this half-dead, pale-haired, wrinkled old guy was actually the suave, elegant and confident Count Castain of the past. Feel his blood. Fang Qingyan was even more speechless. Count Castain's energy and blood activity at this moment is not as active as that of a traditional vampire. It is hard to imagine how severely he suffered on the battlefield. Qi and blood are withered, and mental strength is almost exhausted. After Fang Qingyan briefly sensed it, he shook his head with regret. He has been injured to the core, and unless the Duke spares his energy and blood to help him heal, he will definitely not survive for a few more years. Of the 800 personal guards who were taken away when they set out, only a few dozen came back alive. It can be called tragic. This shows how badly the vampires were tortured by the orcs in this battle. Ahem. Count Castain coughed weakly, like a frail old man. He looked around with turbid eyes, and saw that only Fang Qingyan and 3 or 4 others came out to greet them. He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart, and he became a little more energetic. Why are there only a few of you? Where is Albert? Fang Qingyan did not rush to answer, and pretended to look at each other with the other people for a while. Then a servant at the back replied, "My lord, the old butler, he has encountered misfortune." Fang Qingyan and others nodded in agreement. "Please forgive me. When Castain heard this, he immediately became furious. Even if he was ravaged by orcs on the battlefield, why was his house stolen? Tell me. His eyes became sharp and his voice was hoarse, tell me everything again. After hearing several servants describe what happened, the rage on Castain's face gradually turned into loneliness, sadness and sadness. Did His Highness Marston do it? How could he bully my people while I was away, that he aged 10 years in an instant, although the flames of revenge are burning in his eyes? What's more is the helplessness in facing the cruel facts. As an ordinary nobleman, he could not afford to offend the Brooke clan. What's more, with this half-dead appearance, how can we talk about revenge? But then, he heard the servants talking about the tragic destruction of Earl Marston's castle. Carstain's eyes lit up a little. How did you survive? That he asked again. We thought we were going to die, but suddenly a mysterious strong man appeared and killed all the enemies. We just don't know if this strong man was the one who killed His Highness Marston. Someone answered. Castain nodded thoughtfully. After lowering his head and thinking for a while, he raised his hand tremblingly and waved, I know everything. Let's all leave. Upon hearing this, the guards dispersed and left the castle. After experiencing a brutal war, they all missed their families. Alas! Castain sighed lonely, looked at several servants, and finally fixed his gaze on Fang Qingyan. Where is Albert's grave? Take me to see it. Fang Qingyan was stunned for a moment, then nodded, stepped forward to push up the wheelchair, and went to the cemetery in the back mountain. Count Castain sat in front of Albert's old butler's grave for a long time. The expression on his face is sometimes sad, sometimes remorseful. Albert, his father, grandfather, and grandfather have served me for more than 700 years. In fact, I have already regarded them as relatives. Count Castain's voice was low and hoarse. It seemed like he was talking to Fang Qingyan, but also like he was talking to himself. He seemed like a sad old man mourning the death of a loved one. When the castle was in crisis, the old butler Albert tried his best to protect this place. If Castain hadn't treated him as his own, the old butler wouldn't have had to do this, because while Castain regarded Albert as a relative, Albert had already regarded the castle as his home. Fang Qingyan felt the sadness of this count nobleman and could only sigh in his heart. It wasn't that he didn't want to save Albert. It was just that he was at the critical moment of a breakthrough and didn't know what was happening in the outside world. If he had not stood up for the humans in Bond Town before, he would not have gotten into trouble later. Therefore, Fang Qingyan was responsible for the death of the old housekeeper Albert, but he had no regrets. If he had it to do over again, Fang Qingyan would still kill those 2 bodyguards who looked down upon their lives. Although Fang Qingyan is indifferent to fame and fortune and just wants to practice quietly, there will be no eternal peace in this world. If you don't look for trouble, trouble will come back to you, so when it's time to take action, you still have to take action. Edward. Castain turned to look at Fang Qingyan and said in a deep voice, you will take over Albert's job from now on, are you willing? Fang Qingyan was stunned. Actually let him, a little servant, be the new butler. It doesn't make sense, it's too casual, but soon, he suddenly realized, Count Castain knew that he had only a few years to live and that his life's journey was about to reach its end. After losing the battle and Albert's death, he was already so disheartened that he was too lazy to bother with such nonsense anymore. Okay, I will not betray your trust and will manage this castle for old butler Albert. Fang Qingyan nodded and accepted the job. Castain is very casual. P.S. I beg for support from Xiapuji. Please give me a monthly evaluation ticket for flowers. I beg you on your knees. Chapter 20. Fang Qingyan moved out of his cabin. His new quarters were spacious, the second most luxurious room in the entire castle. If another servant was suddenly promoted to be the Earl's butler, he would definitely dance with excitement, but Fang Qingyan didn't care much about this. He obtained a set of keys, including the keys to the castle treasury and the blood bank door. In the eyes of others, this is a symbol of power and status. But Fang Qingyan took these things very lightly. The second day after becoming the new butler, he took 2 servants and went out to recruit people. It was outrageous that there were only so few people in such a big castle. In the past, if this kind of thing happened, there was no need to go there in person. Just say hello and someone would come to your door. but now Count Castain has become a useless man. The nobles who used to fawn over him suddenly disappeared in a tacit understanding. Almost no one even came to see Castain. Lahmian City. Fang Qingyan spent several hours recruiting a dozen new people, all of whom were the last generation of vampires. There are cooks, servants, and attendants. You take them back first, I will return to the castle later. He ordered to his accompanying men. After parting ways, he came to the black market alone. I found the familiar trading house and walked in. Oh, look who I saw. Isn't this our most distinguished customer, Mr. Edward? As soon as the owner of the store saw Fang Qingyan, he immediately greeted him with bright eyes. In this year, Fang Qingyan has sold thousands of gold coins just for selling materials. Among all the regular customers of this trading house, he is definitely the #1 big customer. Long time no see, Thomas. Fang Qingyan nodded to the trading house boss. Thomas smiled and asked, "Are you here to deliver goods for Lord Castain again this time?" "Well, yes." Fang Qingyan said lightly, "In addition, I need a top-notch coffin. The Earl is back, and he can no longer occupy the magpie's nest." "Ha ha ha, it's all easy to talk about. Please come inside and let's change places and talk slowly." Thomas very politely invited Fang Qingyan to a dedicated private room. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In 3 months, I signed in and obtained a lot of materials, including a pair of Earl-level fangs. There is no doubt that this is another business that satisfies both parties. There are a total of gold coins. Please count them. Fang Qingyan took the heavy bag of money and weighed it, then smiled and said, "No need to count, after so many transactions. Don't I still believe you, that I have actually scanned it with my mental power to confirm that the quantity is correct." Thomas was stunned for a moment, and his favorable impression of the other party Qingyan immediately increased. He enthusiastically took Fang Qingyan to buy a coffin in person. "These are brand new, top-quality coffins that just arrived yesterday. Do you have any style you like?" After arriving at the warehouse, Thomas showed his inventory to Fang Qingyan. There are hundreds of corpse-rearing coffins placed in layers on the ground. It can be said that it is a big family and a big business. Fang Qingyan stepped forward to check them one by one and quickly walked around, but he shook his head in disappointment. The styles of these coffins are very novel, gorgeous and beautiful, but he doesn't care about the appearance. What he cares about is the quality of the corpse coffins. A good coffin can be of great help to meditation practice. Of the more than 100 coffins in the warehouse, none are as good as Count Castain's. Is there anything better? Money is not an issue. I want a corpse coffin made by the best craftsmen using the most precious materials. Fang Qingyan turned back, looked at Thomas, and asked. Thomas was stunned for 3 seconds, and then showed a shocked expression. "You don't look down on any of them, do you? Look at the 3 coffins next to them. These are very high-end corpse coffins. Ordinary nobles can't afford it. I've already seen it, no." Fang Qingyan shook his head. Thomas immediately looked at Fang Qingyan with a puzzled look, and wanted to ask, "How much more advanced a coffin do you, a little baron, want to sleep in?" Fang Qingyan hid most of his strength, and the energy and blood fluctuations he displayed were only at the level of an ordinary baron. "Ahem, I bought it for Count Castain, so I can't make do with it, I have to get the best," Fang Qingyan said without blushing and without a beating heart. When Thomas heard this, he suddenly realized that he had also heard that Count Castain was seriously injured on the battlefield. In this case, he really needed a good coffin to heal his injuries, but this is really the best corpse coffin in his shop. If you need a better coffin, you can only try your luck at the auction house. Thomas sighed. The truly top-notch corpse coffins are all monopolized by the royal family. How can ordinary nobles afford them? You will never find a better coffin than mine in any trading house in Lahmia City. That I see. Didn't expect Count Castain's black gold coffin to be so precious. You can't even buy it if you want. Fang Qingyan was a little disappointed and didn't stay any longer. After walking out of the trading house, he left the black market and took a carriage to the auction house. If it doesn't work, he can only make do with an inferior coffin. P.S. Please give me flowers, monthly tickets, and evaluation votes. Xiaopuji asks for support. Chapter 21. The largest auction in the city of Lahmia is the property of the Riefno clan. The Riefno clan, like the Brook clan, is one of the 7 royal families. On the surface, there is a terrifyingly powerful marquis. While the Duke has been in seclusion for thousands of years, Fang Qingyan got off the carriage. I looked up at this magnificent and tall building. There were people coming and going at the door, and those who came in and out were all nobles. Civilians are not eligible to enter. Sir, please identify yourself. Fang Qingyan was stopped at the door. Although the 2 guards were polite, their eyes were wary because Qingyan was unfamiliar with him. I am Count Castain's butler. Fang Qingyan took out a metal plate that symbolized his identity as a butler, with Count Castain's family crest printed on it. The 2 guards immediately let him go. After entering, a waiter led the way, and after passing a long corridor, they came to a spacious hall, which was the auction venue. Rows of seats are arranged neatly, with an aisle for people to walk in the middle, and a high platform at the front. This is your first time, sir. Let me tell you the rules first. The waiter said very politely, during the auction, you are not allowed to speak and you need to keep quiet. You bid and increase the price by holding up placards. Each participant has 5 placards, corresponding to 500, 1,000, 5,000. 10,000 gold coins. A very Western auction style. Fang Qingyan nodded, indicating that he understood. The waiter handed over another black mask shaped like bat wings. This is a mask. You can choose not to wear it, sir. Better put it on. He reached out and took it. After taking his seat, Fang Qingyan looked around without leaving any trace. There were many people coming to the auction. There were about hundreds of people, and they were all nobles, and there were even several Earl-level vampires among them. In the city of Lahmia, the Count was considered a big noble, and he had his own fiefdom and private army. The Marquis is a high-ranking official in the border area, and his status is extremely noble. He rarely stoops to attend such an auction, unless he receives news in advance that something great will be available. After waiting for a few more minutes, the auction begins. The host is a Baron vampire. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Riefno family, I welcome you all. After a simple warm-up, the first auction item was presented. It was a 5-star magic weapon that was auctioned for a high price of 1,800 gold coins, and was eventually acquired by an earl. Fang Qingyan is not interested in magic weapons. He has a better 7-star magic weapon, Death Scythe, than the second, third. Finally, after the 7th auction item was brought onto the stage, Fang Qingyan instantly became energetic and sat upright involuntarily. That's a coffin. Exquisite blood-colored patterns are outlined in the darkness. It is 2 meters long and 1 meter 5 wide. It is much larger than ordinary coffins, and its texture is extremely thick and mysterious. As you can see, this is a corpse coffin. I believe you have already felt its extraordinary craftsmanship. The host boasted loudly. This was captured on the battlefield by the army of the Riefno family. The elder of the goblin tribe made the corpse coffin with his own hands, and every exquisite pattern on it can be regarded as the pinnacle of art. It is definitely a coffin of top quality. You can't buy such a high-end corpse coffin in any store in Lahmia. Fang Qingyan was tempted, and he felt that several other earls and nobles present were also tempted. The level of this coffin is definitely not inferior to that of Castain, and may even be higher. A good coffin is the face of the vampire clan. If you have a top-quality coffin, you can proudly show off to the girl you love. My coffin is big and comfortable. Maybe the girl will be tempted and agree to go home with you and roll the coffin board. And with a coffin with such a large internal space, you can invite 2 girls at once and hug each other without feeling too crowded. Starting price, 1,500 gold coins. As soon as the host finished speaking, someone immediately raised a sign and made a bid, then someone else raised a sign. A bunch of people were trying to grab it, and the price was soon pushed to a terrifying figure, 6,400 gold coins. Fang Qingyan's eyes widened. 1 gold coin is enough for an ordinary civilian family to live without worries for half a year. 6,400 gold coins is an astronomical figure. It can fill a small box. As a housekeeper, he knew very well that Count Castain's annual tax revenue was only about 3,000 gold coins. These people are so rich. Fang Qingyan took a look at his backpack and reconfirmed his deposit. 8,926 gold coins. equivalent to 3 years of taxes for an earl, but he had no confidence at all that he would be able to take the shot. Fortunately, after the price was raised to such a high level, the speed slowed down and many people withdrew from the competition. Currently there are only 2 counts left fighting for it. Oh, Count Armand bid 7,000 gold coins, 7,000 gold coins for the first time. Okay, Count Augustine will increase the price by 500, 7,500 gold coins for the first time, 7,500 gold coins for the second time. The host is passionate. Fang Qingyan was stunned when he saw that Count Armand was fucked. He immediately stopped hesitating and raised the sign decisively. Oh my god, another gentleman has joined the competition. He bids 8,000 gold coins, 8,000 gold coins for the first time. Count Augustine hesitated for a moment, then raised the sign and increased the price by 500. Fang Qingyan narrowed his eyes. He really only had 3 gold coins left. This guy is really fierce. He defeated 6 or 7 earls by himself. Looking at this momentum, Fang Qingyan will also be defeated. It seems that I need to use some means. Fang Qingyan took a deep breath, his eyes glowed with a faint purple light, and he used his superpower, mind reading. He has reached the peak of Count, and his mental power is much stronger than his opponent. So I read Augustine's inner thoughts smoothly. Oh, this earl really doesn't have much money left. Damn bastard, you must not increase the price. Fang Qingyan's eyes lit up. Good guy, you pretended to be invincible written all over your face, but it turns out that you are also weak. He immediately wrote a number on the blank sign and held it high. The host was stunned for a moment and his eyes widened. Well, this gentleman increased the price, by 1 gold coin. Ahem, 8,001 gold coins for the first time. Count Augustine's face darkened, he gave up, and withdrew from the competition with a curse. He raised the price by 1 gold coin. He suspected that Fang Qingyan had deliberately raised his price and was looking for a trap at the auction, hoping to drain his wallet. Want me to increase the price? Humph, I won't. The third time. Congratulations to this gentleman for getting a top-notch coffin. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fang Qingyan breathed a sigh of relief. After living in Lahmia for so long, he felt the power of money for the first time. Everyone present today was defeated by his money ability. P.S. Seek support. Chapter 22.at The door of the trading house. Fang Qingyan hired a large carriage, and 2 staff members helped him carry the heavy coffin up and fixed it with ropes. The service was very thoughtful. Sir, wait a minute. Just about to leave, he was suddenly stopped. Fang Qingyan turned around in confusion and saw a beautiful and graceful female waiter holding a wooden box and handed it to Fang Qingyan respectfully. What is this? Is this your first time to our auction house? She smiled charmingly and spoke sweetly. We have a rule here. Every time an auction takes place, the customer with the highest consumption will receive a mysterious gift. She is quite good at doing business. Fang Qingyan didn't hesitate. He took the wooden box and got on the carriage to leave. There was no bloody plot like making enemies at the auction and being hunted down as described in the novels of the previous life. After all, this was an auction held by the Revno clan. To offend the royal family for a coffin, you must be crazy. The carriage left the city smoothly. On the way, Fang Qingyan picked up the wooden box and opened it. Huh? Is this an egg of a creature? That he looked at the things inside and was a little surprised. A snow-white egg, 4 or 5 times larger than a goose egg. There was also an instruction manual inside. Dear guest, this is the egg of a night falcon. After hatching, you will get a beautiful new partner. Thank you for participating in the auction of the Revno family. Welcome to visit again. I wish you a happy life. Fang Qingyan was surprised again. Originally thought that the gifts were not good things, but I didn't expect the auction house to be so sincere. He had read many books in Count Castain's study, one of which was about the birds and animals in this other world. The night falcon is a very fierce bird of prey, with strong flying ability, vision, mobility and aggressiveness. It is a carnivore and is at the top of the bird food chain. An adult night falcon can easily grab a strong cow from the ground. Because of its gorgeous and beautiful appearance and its cold and arrogant personality, the night falcon is deeply loved by the nobles of Lahmia. Many noble families keep night falcons to guard their homes or play. The value of this gift is not less than 1,000 gold coins. That's why Fang Qingyan said that the auction house is very sincere. It's also good to have a pet. He smiled happily. Back to Castain Castle. The new recruits who had been recruited before were waiting here. Fang Qingyan assigned tasks to each of them, explained all the matters that should be paid attention to, and took them to their respective houses. Just like what Albert did to him at the beginning, after everything was done, Fang Qingyan ordered his servants to lift his love coffin worth 8,000 gold coins and return to his room. After the servants left, he couldn't wait to close the door. He opened the coffin lid and lay down in it. TSK, you get what you pay for. It's so comfortable. Feeling the breath wrapping himself, as if bathing in warm spring water, both the body and the spirit were warmed. Fang Qingyan felt that the money was worth it. This coffin is indeed better than the one of Count Castain, and the effect is better. System, I want to sign in. Ding. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining War Beast Essence Blood X1. Fang Qingyan was stunned. I thought I heard it wrong, so I took out the essence blood and found that although the breath on it was strong, it was completely different from that of the Blood Clan. I am a vampire. What do you do with the essence blood of an orc? The essence blood of other creatures can only be used as food by the Blood Clan to fill their stomachs, which is of no help for cultivation. The war beast level orcs of Azeroth are at the same level as the Earl, but what Fang Qingyan needs now is the blood essence of the Marquis and the Duke, not the blood essence of the orcs. The system will not be aimless. All the rewards obtained by signing in must be something I can use. He thought about it for a while, and suddenly remembered something. Looking at the pet egg on the side, could it be that this war beast blood essence is for it? Fang Qingyan raised his eyebrows, stood up and walked over, dripping the blood essence on the pet egg. A purple light lit up on the eggshell, and the blood instantly sank into it and disappeared. Then, the pet egg suddenly trembled, and the temperature rose sharply, becoming extremely hot. The wooden table made a sizzling sound, and the tabletop was burnt black. Fang Qingyan could only reach out and pick up the egg and hold it in his palm. The temperature was getting higher and higher, as hot as a branding iron. The trembling of the egg was getting more and more intense. After a few minutes, the vibration suddenly stopped, the temperature slowly dropped, and the pet egg was silent. Fang Qingyan's mouth twitched. Damn, I'm not going to kill it, am I? He was speechless when a crack sound suddenly rang in his ears. The eggshell cracked open, and a ray of purple light shone through it. Then the cracks increased rapidly, and the purple light became brighter and brighter, soon spreading throughout the pet egg. Cracked that the egg broke, a cute little thing crawled out. It had sparse purple fur, 2 big eyes, and a translucent beak. The young falcon looked around blankly at first, and then fixed its eyes on Fang Qingyan's face. Chirp! It cried happily. Fang Qingyan stared at it and muttered to himself, it doesn't seem very smart, and it doesn't match the description of the night falcon in the book. Has it mutated? Let's give you a name. How about Patraxia? Chirp! The young falcon patted its tender wings and seemed to be very satisfied with the name. P.S. Xiaopu Street asks for support. Your support is my greatest motivation. Kneeling for flowers, monthly tickets, and evaluation tickets. Chapter 23. Days passed one by one. The return of Count Castain and his promotion to the castle's chief steward. These things are just small episodes. Fang Qingyan returned to a peaceful and comfortable life. His qi and blood had reached the peak of the Earl. Before he accumulated enough blood essence to become a marquis, all Fang Qingyan could do was cultivate his spiritual power. Petsia was also growing up day by day. The hair had grown where it should, but unfortunately, it could not fly. Every day, it followed its master like a little chicken, hopping and hopping, inseparable. Even when Fang Qingyan lay in the coffin to sleep, it lay on the coffin lid obediently, alert to the surroundings. Occasionally, it signed in to obtain the blood essence of the orcs, and Fang Qingyan gave it to Petsia to eat. In this huge castle, only this young falcon was loyal to Fang Qingyan and relieved him of some loneliness. Fang Qingyan helped Count Castain manage the castle very well. His life was also a repetitive practice, sign in, practice, sign in, but he did not feel bored. The only bad thing was that Count Castain's health was getting worse and worse. In a blink of an eye, a year had passed. Ding! Sign in successful. congratulations to the host for obtaining Marquis Blood X1, that the system's voice sounded in his mind. Fang Qingyan was shocked, his eyes burst into a fiery brilliance, and he couldn't help but clench his fists. Finally, I can break through. In the backpack, 20 drops of dazzling Marquis blood lay in it. This is the resource he has accumulated for more than a year. Ordinary vampires may only need 1 or 2 drops of Marquis blood to break through successfully, but it is far from enough for Fang Qingyan. Similarly, once he breaks through to the Marquis, he will be much stronger than vampires of the same level. Solid accumulation leads to a sudden burst of energy. Fang Qingyan thought for a while, then raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Cry! The loud eagle cry cut through the sky. An adult eagle pierced through the clouds like a sharp arrow and flew into Castain Castle. Flutter! Petra flew in from the window and landed on the table in front of Fang Qingyan. Its body is covered with gorgeous and beautiful purple feathers, its posture is elegant and handsome, majestic and handsome, its eagle eyes are sharp and cold, its long beak is extremely sharp, and it exudes a noble and cold temperament. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There are 3 colorful hairs on the top of its head, which is its pride. If the 7 clans are the royal family of vampires, then Petsia is the royal family of birds. In a year, Fang Qingyan fed it countless orc blood essences, including a drop of Beast King blood essence, which made it complete a super evolution. This night falcon has already evolved to the level of war beasts and can fight with the Earl. Just looking at the appearance, no one can recognize that this is a night falcon. I want to retreat and break through. You help me guard the surroundings and don't let anyone approach this room. Fang Qingyan instructed. Petsia nodded, flapped his wings and flew to the roof. A pair of falcon eyes scanned the surroundings sharply, and any creature that might threaten the master's breakthrough would be ruthlessly torn into pieces by it. Inside the gorgeous coffin, Fang Qingyan adjusted his state to the best, and then took out a drop of Marquis blood essence that exuded terrifying life energy. Take it, rumble. The violent energy raged and roared in the body, just like an uncontrolled mad dragon, but soon, this mad dragon was completely suppressed by Fang Qingyan's terrifying blood power, and it was refined bit by bit. Feeling the transformation of his body, Fang Qingyan was focused and began to break through. In another room, Count Castain's wrinkled face was lifeless, his eyes were turbid and lost focus. His eyes were blind, not just his eyes, but many organs in his body had already died. On the battlefield that year, he was severely injured by a powerful general orc, which injured his origin and destroyed his vitality. The Blood Clan has a very strong ability to recover and heal itself. Even if the Earl-level Blood Clan is beheaded, they will not die, and can rely on the power of blood to grow a new body. But once the origin is injured, even if the body is intact, it will gradually die. Just like when Fang Qingyan killed Marston, he burned his blood with the power of the Yang, and even the Earl would lose his ability to heal himself. The essence of vampires is blood. And the attack of the beast enemy contained poison, which could corrode blood and make it decay. Only those Duke ancestors could save him. Even the Marquis was helpless. Alas! Castain sighed in old age and dejection. He could feel the passing of his life, just like the withering of autumn leaves, which would eventually sink into the dust and turn into fertilizer. Dong dong dong. His fingers trembled as he knocked on the coffin board. Immediately, the servants guarding the door came in, waiting for the Earl's order. I'm going to the Brook clan, help me up. Boom! The shackles on the top of his head were fiercely broken, as if the heavy clouds were pierced and the moonlight sprinkled from them. Fang Qingyan's body trembled violently, and every muscle and bone made a tearing sound. Life was sublimating and evolving. The blood in the body roared like the vast Wang Yang. Finally, the evolution was nearing its end. When everything calmed down, the former Earl had become a newly promoted Marquis. The Supreme Marquis. Fang Qingyan found that his mental power suddenly increased by more than 10 times, and he could clearly sense the earthworms wriggling in the soil dozens of kilometers away. As expected, he awakened a new superpower, but the effect of this ability was quite unexpected. This is... Fang Qingyan's expression was shocked. In his eyes, the world seemed to have changed. There were lines of distinct colors roaming in the space, densely packed and countless. These lines were like folds on paper, clearly visible and stacked. This is the line of space connected by the nodes of space. Fang Qingyan had a strong premonition. He could manipulate these lines at will and change the original appearance of space. And the result of doing so was, swish, Fang Qingyan's body instantly disappeared from the coffin and appeared by the window, instantaneous movement. The change of position did not involve any movement at all. It was not that the speed reached the limit, but that the space changed. Fang Qingyan's eyes shone brightly. This superpower was really awesome. He could manipulate the lines of space and fold the space like paper. The effect he could present was not just his own instant movement. The four directions above and below were the universe, and the past and present were the universe. The universe was composed of time and space. Mastering any of these abilities meant gaining the authority of God. The only limitation was that the range of this ability was only 50 meters, but Fang Qingyan believed that when he reached a higher level, he could definitely increase the range of application. Is this the Marquis? The strongest fighting force of the royal family, a vassal-level giant who dominated one side. Fang Qingyan took a deep breath, feeling the violent blood in his body. He felt that once he made a move, he would definitely destroy the world. The number of marquises of all the nobles in the kingdom of Nikera was no more than 20, most of them were concentrated in the 7 major clans. Only the duke's ancestors could create new marquises, which was the consensus of all blood clans. It was impossible for an unknown marquis to exist, but Fang Qingyan became an exception. Unless he encounters a terrifying strong man who can tear space apart, he will be invincible no matter who he faces. Dong dong dong, someone knocked on the door. A servant respectfully reported, "Butler Edward, the Earl is going to the Brooke clan and wants you to accompany him." "The Earl asked me to let you know." Fang Qingyan heard this and said lightly, "Okay, I know." He was not surprised that Castain was going to the Brooke clan. On the contrary, it took so long for Castain to make this decision, which was what surprised Fang Qingyan. He opened the closet, picked out a decent red robe to change into, and then went out. P.S. Please support, Chapter 24. The Brooke clan, headquartered in the north of the city of Lahmia, the northern part of the kingdom of Nikera, is basically the fiefdom of the Brooke clan, with an area of more than 600,000 square kilometers. As one of the 7 royal families, the Brooke clan is like a huge empire. The magnificent and huge palace is endless, and there are luxurious castles everywhere. Compared with the size of the Brooke clan, the fief of Count Castain is a joke. At this moment, in a magnificent palace, Marquis Brooke, wearing a gorgeous purple and gold robe and a dark red shawl, sat on a high place. His face was gloomy, and his eyes were as sharp as a hawk as he looked at the person kneeling on one knee below. The pressure of the Marquis made the man tremble like a sieve. Extremely frightened. "You have been investigating the murder of my son for more than a year and still can't find out the truth." Marquis Brooke's voice was cold and full of murderous intent. His Earl's men kowtowed quickly. "Lord Marquis, please calm down, it's my incompetence." "Humph. If it weren't for the fact that our Brooke family suffered heavy losses in the war with Azeroth last year and was in need of available people, I would have sent you to see the Ancestor Lilith." Marquis Brooke snorted coldly. He had lived for more than 3,000 years, and this was the first time he experienced the pain of losing his son. When he went to the battlefield, Marquis Brooke had a premonition that this would be a tough battle, and the Blood clan would most likely not be able to beat the orcs. So out of personal feelings, he deliberately left his only son in the ancestral land and did not bring Marston to the battlefield. Who would have thought that Marston would get into trouble in the ancestral land? Marquis Brooke would never forget the scene he saw a year ago. The incomplete body of his son lay on the cold ground. His head was broken into countless pieces and mixed with the soil. There were wounds cut by magic weapons on his body, as well as traces similar to those after being burned by the sun. He died so miserably. What puzzled him most was that vampires could never have superpowers related to the sun, and the battle took place at night, so how to explain the remaining solar fire on Marston's wound? There was no one alive in Marston Castle. This directly turned the case into an unsolved case. Get out and investigate. The more Marquis Brooke thought about it, the angrier he became, and he roared like a lion at the Earl's men below. "I'll give you another month, don't come back to see me if you don't find out the truth." "I obey the order." The Earl hurriedly took his leave, fearing that Marquis Brooke would go back on his word and take him back to eat. "Don't let me find out who killed Marston, otherwise this Marquis will make you live a life worse than death." Marquis Brooke gritted his teeth, then he waved his hand and ordered the servants, bring all those women here. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. His only child was killed, and now he has no successor, so he needs to work hard to have a baby. In the past year, Marquis Brooke has been busy all night, sweating in the coffin, doing a very primitive physical labor, but no woman's belly has grown. Instead, the conflict with the Marquise has become more and more serious. This has further intensified his resentment and hatred for the person who killed his son. Suddenly, a servant ran in and reported. My Lord Marquis, Count Castain and his butler are here to visit and are waiting outside the castle. Do you want to let them in? That Marquis Brooke was stunned. Castain, that guy is not dead yet? No. The servant answered truthfully, but judging from his appearance, he is about to go to the kingdom of the ancestral god. Humph. Castain has become a half-dead useless man, and he actually came to the door. Marquis Brooke's expression was very indifferent, and he said lightly, the blood and chi have been polluted by the poison of the Medusa clan, and he will definitely die. He just wants to borrow some of my blood to prolong his life. Let him go back. I won't see you. It's better to die early and reincarnate early. Why are you still struggling? Although Count Castain had followed him to fight on the battlefield for many years and made countless contributions, he has now become a useless man, which means he has lost all his value and is wasting his fiefdom. How precious is his blood and blood? Essence and blood are two completely different concepts. Even if it is Marquis Brooke, it will take half a month to make up for a drop of essence and blood given to others. Using such a precious thing to prolong the life of a useless person, isn't that a waste of natural resources? So Marquis Brooke didn't even let Castain and Fang Qingyan enter the gate, outside the castle, outside the iron gate. Please go back, Lord Earl. The servant ruthlessly issued an order to expel the guests. Lord Marquis is busy with official business and has no time to meet you for the time being. Come again next time. He won't see me. Castain sighed faintly, and after a few seconds of silence, he waved his hand. Let's go, Edward, let's go back. Fang Qingyan looked at the gorgeous castle in front of him expressionlessly, then pushed the wheelchair and returned the same way, as expected. What kind of son you have, what kind of father you have. Marquis Brooke was unkind and ungrateful, and cut off all of Castain's hopes, the sorrow of a hero in his twilight years, the desolation of a tiger in the plain. I'm dying. On the way, Castain suddenly said faintly, maybe today, or maybe tomorrow, anyway, soon. If he really couldn't hold on any longer, he wouldn't have the audacity to come to Marquis Brooke. I didn't expect that he would really leave him to die without saving him. Castain was disheartened and leaned weakly on the wheelchair, motionless. He died before he died. Fang Qingyan glanced at him and chuckled. Don't be so pessimistic, you can still live a long time, believe me. After returning to the castle, Castain made an amazing decision. He asked Fang Qingyan to issue a notice to dismiss his personal guards, including everyone in the castle, and everyone was allocated an astonishing amount of resettlement money. Everyone knew what this meant. Stay and bury me before you leave, Edward. Castain said to Fang Qingyan. Fang Qingyan nodded. This is what I should do. To be honest, he didn't understand, why would a count who had lived for more than 800 years, a noble with unlimited glory, be so lonely when his life was about to reach the end? No offspring, no lover, no friends, he didn't even have a last word when he was dying. Everyone will die, but the death of Count Castain is destined to be the most pitiful. Fang Qingyan looked at the old man sleeping in the wheelchair, and silently made up his mind that he must not live as lonely, pitiful and miserable as Castain, not to mention a group of wives and concubines, children and grandchildren. At least he should find more. P.S. Xiaopu Street asks for support. Chapter 25. The environment inside the coffin gives people a quiet and peaceful feeling. The pure darkness will scare humans, but for the vampires, it is very enjoyable. Fang Qingyan's nose twitched twice. This coffin exudes a special fragrance, which should be the characteristics of the material. He calmed down and began to meditate. The blood and mental power in the body began to beat. After entering the Marquis realm, Fang Qingyan found that his cultivation speed suddenly slowed down many times. From Marquis to Duke, it was an extremely difficult and bumpy road. Many of the existing marquises of the Blood clan entered this realm thousands of years ago, but until today, they are still standing still. 1,000 years ago, they were marquises, and 1,000 years later, they are still marquises. The reality is so cruel that it makes people despair. Some people divide the journey from Marquis to Duke into 4 realms: 0-wing Marquis, double-wing Marquis, 4-wing Marquis, and 6-wing Marquis. They correspond to the early, middle, late, and peak stages of the Marquis stage. Fang Qingyan is currently a 0-wing Marquis. He has not yet evolved wings, or holy wings, so the strength gap between marquises is also very large. It is said that the prince-level vampire has 12 holy wings, so the prince is also called the 12-wing blood ancestor. Unfortunately, except for the old monster dukes of the 7 major clans who have lived for tens of thousands of years, no one has ever seen a real prince. Only after becoming a marquis, one can personally feel how difficult it is to grow a pair of holy wings. The next morning, Fang Qingyan climbed out of the coffin, came to the window, and pushed it open. The bright sunshine poured in, warm and comfortable, dispelling the cold and dampness. After a night of practice, the progress was almost imperceptible. At this speed, if there is no blood essence to assist, he may not be able to grow 6 holy wings in hundreds of years. Fang Qingyan stared at the morning light and suddenly had an idea. He had tried to practice in the sun before, but failed. Although he could temporarily absorb the sun's essence, the conversion rate was almost 0. Now that he has broken through to the Marquis and entered a higher level of life, will the situation be different? He did it after thinking it over. Fang Qingyan took a deep breath, and his skin was suddenly covered with a layer of light red gold brilliance. The temperature in the room rose sharply, and the aura of the most yang and strong solar fire filled the air. He transformed into the Yangyan form. The most yang power traveled in his body. Then he relaxed his mind, bathed in the sun and began to meditate. Gradually, strands of solar fire aura penetrated through the pores and merged into the blood. This time, it did not dissipate. The body really decomposed and swallowed the solar fire. After becoming a marquis, he could actually practice with the help of sunlight. TSK, I guess he is the only vampire who can perform photosynthesis since the birth of the blood race. Fang Qingyan raised his eyebrows, feeling extremely happy. Practice in the coffin at night, and meditate in the sun during the day. Yin and yang dual cultivation means that his practice speed will be very fast. System, sign in. Ding. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Beast Blood X1. Fang Qingyan curled his lips, he snapped his fingers, and soon the cry of an eagle sounded in his ears, and Petsia flew in from the window. You got a bargain. Fang Qingyan raised his hand and threw it. Petra was overjoyed, and very excitedly and accurately caught the drop of orc blood containing powerful life energy with his beak. Chirped that it flapped its wings and rubbed its head against its master's hand affectionately. Go and play, don't run too far. Although you are now a war beast, only low-key people can live long. The same is true for eagles and falcons. Fang Qingyan warned it. Then he opened the door and left the house. Dong dong dong. Knocked on the door, no one responded, knocked again, and then heard the weak and old voice of Count Castain. Come in. Come in. Push the door in. Are you here, to collect my body? Alas, I'm going to disappoint you. Come back tomorrow, Edward, I can't die today. He spoke as if he was talking in his sleep, and it was estimated that his mind was not very clear. Fang Qingyan's mouth twitched. He walked to his coffin and said, I went to the Brook clan again. Did you see him? Yes. Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What did he say? He gave me a drop of blood and asked me to deliver it to you. Carstein's breathing suddenly became heavy. He struggled to sit up from the coffin and faced Fang Qingyan, but he was blind and could not see anything. His wrinkled face was full of desire for life. Please open your mouth, Your Majesty. Carstein opened his mouth obediently, and all the teeth in his mouth were gone, including the 2 fangs he was proud of. Fang Qingyan's expression was indifferent. He took a step forward and stretched out his slender right hand. The nail of his thumb easily made a cut on the pad of his index finger, and a drop of blood seeped out and fell into Carstein's mouth. Extremely huge life energy exploded in his body, like spring rain nourishing all things. This energy flowed along the limbs and bones. a drop of the Marquis blood brought great changes to the dying man. The corpse spots on the old Count's face slowly faded away, and his skin became rosy, finally gaining some color. "It's really the blood of the Marquis." Castain even spoke fluently and said excitedly, "Thank you, Edward. You're welcome. This is what I, as a butler, should do." Fang Qingyan said lightly, although Castain did not have any great kindness to him, but after all, he has lived in the castle for many years, so he is more or less an acquaintance. He is not a stingy and unsympathetic person like the Margrave Brooke. Fang Qingyan could still do it by giving a small favor to a poor dying old man. It's just a drop of essence and blood, and it can be cultivated back in a few days. "Alas!" A long sigh sounded in my ears. Castain said with a lonely face, "I don't know what the meaning of hanging on like this is. Edward, do you think I am too greedy for life and afraid of death? Will I be a better person by taking the initiative to end my own life? Choose." Fang Qingyan shook his head, "Everyone has their own choice. You are not like a person who is greedy for life and afraid of death. You endure torture that is worse than death every day, but you still live in pain. You must have your own reasons. I am just a housekeeper. It's inconvenient to ask more." Castain fell silent. After sitting there for a full minute, I heard him sigh. "Actually, this castle used to have a mistress. I also have a daughter." Fang Qingyan's eyes widened, expressed his deep shock. "Then why have I never heard Albert mention anything about the Countess and the lady?" Castain shook his head. "How could he reveal the biggest secret of my life to others? I don't want to die because I don't want to go to the grave with such regrets." "What regret?" Fang Qingyan's heart was burning with gossip. "I want to see my daughter, Elizabeth Capet again," Castain said with a wry smile. "Cape." Fang Qingyan was stunned for a moment. He felt that this last name was very familiar, as if he had heard it somewhere, but he couldn't remember it. Suddenly, his expression became extremely wonderful. "My Lord Earl, is your daughter a member of the Cape clan, one of the 7 clans? The Capet clan, like the Brooke clan and the Riefno clan, are among the 7 royal families. Well, are you surprised? The legitimate daughter of the royal family and the princess of the Cape clan, her father is actually an ordinary noble." Count Castain said with a sigh on his face, "The story begins 20 years ago." Chapter 26. As soon as Fang Qingyan heard this tone, he knew that it would not be over for a while. He simply pulled up a chair, sat down and listened patiently to what he had to say. 20 years ago, something happened. On the day of the wedding of Marquis Morpheus of the Cape clan, the bride ran away from the wedding. This incident caused a sensation in the entire city of Lahmia. I had just returned from the battlefield victorious, and then I met her, my beloved Camilla. I have lived for more than 800 years, and this is the first time I have experienced the taste of love. We are inseparable and happier than any couple in the world. I didn't know at the time that she was the fiancée of Marquis Morpheus. When Fang Qingyan heard this, he was shocked that Castain had cheated on a Marquis boss. At the same time, he had basically guessed the direction of the story. Not surprisingly, this is another version of the cowherd and the weaver girl from another world. Sure enough, the sweet love is not over yet. Due to the pressure, intimidation from her family, Camilla had to end her underground love affair with the old count, succumb to fate, and married into a rich family. But no one knew that Camilla was actually pregnant with Castain's child. This child was Elizabeth Capet, the princess of the Cape family, the sweet daughter of heaven. After Fang Qingyan heard Castain's experience, he immediately admired this old guy. Not only did he cuckold the Marquis, but he also asked him to help raise his daughter for 20 years. It was like a heifer riding a rocket, so awesome. My Lord Earl, when you tell me such a thing, aren't you afraid that I will leak it? Fang Qingyan asked him interestingly. Castain shook his head firmly. No, you won't. Revealing this secret will not do you any good, and you are not that kind of person, otherwise you don't have to ask for blood essence for me. Even if you get the blood essence, you can keep it for yourself, there is no need to give it to me. Your character is worthy of my trust. Fang Qingyan shrugged his shoulders and wanted to say, that's my blood essence. Your daughter Elizabeth, doesn't she know her own life experience? I don't know, and I must not let her know. Castain shook his head without hesitation. Let her know that her biological father is dead? Or let her know that the father who raised her for 20 years has no blood relationship with her? No, that would only make Elizabeth miserable. Then how can you fulfill your last wish to see your daughter? How about, write a letter to Madame. She should still love you and ask Madame to take the young lady out. Camilla has passed away. After marrying into the Cape clan, she became depressed. On a sunny noon, she walked into the sunshine with her longing for me. Castain choked with a painful expression. Camilla is a woman who believes in love. Marrying someone she doesn't love is an extreme insult to her. She would rather die. Fang Qingyan was speechless. It turns out that in the world of vampires, there are also such romantic and touching love stories. Although he wanted to help the old count, unfortunately, he had no experience in this kind of thing. He has never cheated on anyone else, nor has he ever let others help him raise his children. After I died, Elizabeth no longer had any real relatives, so I have been waiting for the opportunity. I don't know if I can survive until that day. After Castain finished speaking, he said to Fang Qingyan sincerely, I tell you this in the hope that after I die, there will still be people in this world who remember that I, Castain von Aldrich, have a beautiful daughter. Her name is Elizabeth. Fang Qingyan nodded and chuckled. Don't worry, I will remember that Elizabeth is your daughter, not Marquis Morpheus's. Well, I won't forget. I will pay attention to the news about Elizabeth, and if there is a suitable time, I will take you to see her. Castain was greatly moved. Thank you, Edward. You're welcome, this is just a small thing. By the way, do you have a portrait of the lady? In the cabinet on the left, the bottom shelf. Fang Qingyan walked to the cabinet and after groping for a while, he found a rolled-up painting. After opening it, a lifelike girl came into view. She has silver hair as pure and innocent as moonlight, and under her long eyelashes is a pair of beautiful blue eyes. These eyes seem to have infinite magic power, and her soul is trapped in them if she is not careful. The girl is also beautiful in appearance and has outstanding temperament, like a proud and beautiful swan. She indeed has a beauty that will captivate the entire country. Fang Qingyan stood up, put the chair back together, and then said with a smile, continue to rest, Lord Earl, I will cover the coffin board for you. After returning to his room, Fang Qingyan wandered around for a while before making a decision. Bang that he snapped his fingers. Petsha soon appeared at the window, her gorgeous feathers shining purple in the sunlight. Do one thing for me. Chirp. Fang Qingyan took out the portrait, spread it out on the table, and showed it to Petsha. This girl. It tilted its little head and looked at it carefully for 2 seconds, and then chirped to indicate that it had remembered it. Fang Qingyan took the map again and pointed to a location. This place is the Capet clan and the Marquis castle. Chirp. You will stand guard outside the castle. As soon as you see the people in the painting appear, come back and tell me, can this task be completed? Chirp chirp chirp. Petsha flapped her wings confidently, indicating that it was a piece of cake. Go ahead. Fang Qingyan smiled. It flew out, soared into the sky, and disappeared into the clouds in a blink of an eye, flying towards the direction of the Cape clan. Chapter 27. Another 9 months passed unknowingly. With the help of a drop of the Marquis blood, the old Count Castain's health improved a lot, and he forcibly extended his exhausted life, but the good times didn't last long. At first, the old Count could eat, drink, and move around, but 5 months later, he was back in a wheelchair. Now, it's time to burp again. The most ridiculous thing is that his daughter Elizabeth has not left the castle once for 9 months. The true nature of a super otaku is exposed. Fang Qingyan once took the opportunity to carefully examine Castain's body and found that his blood had been completely integrated with a very overbearing toxic energy. If it was just poisoning, then Fang Qingyan could still save him, but now it can be said that Castain has turned into a poisonous person. The chi and blood have been completely destroyed, and all the internal organs, including the heart, liver, spleen, lungs and kidneys, are all necrotic. It is a medical miracle that I can survive to this day. If you want to save him, you have to carry out a thorough exchange of blood. Unfortunately, Castain's current state cannot withstand such a violent torment. Fang Qingyan didn't know if the Duke had any way to help Castain change his fate, but he was really helpless. The old Count can survive for another half-month at most.